AstraZeneca. So this one's about the Oxford University vaccine. I just did an AstraZeneca video, kind of looking at the chart, and we could see it kind of hyped up on some news that we got overnight here, and it's reversed down a bit. And I don't know exactly where a bottom point to target on this reversal would be as far as the stock trading goes. But usually these kind of hypey news things come down a bit. And I was trying to look at shorting this here, and there just wasn't really any option contracts for puts or anything like that. And plus, this is a big kind of blue chip stock, so this swing isn't really that big in the scheme of things. Um, but yeah, but there's more news out. So let me go over the actual vaccine and what's going on with the Oxford vaccine. Because in the last video I mentioned mRNA. Let's see what mRNA is doing. So AstraZeneca owns 7.7% of mRNA, and mRNA is producing the mRNA, the messenger RNA vaccine, which had really positive phase 1 trial. And so I'm kind of surprised that this thing came down all the way to where it was trading before, on a really positive phase 1. I mean, I expected kind of the hype peak to reverse a little bit, but it's come all the way down here. That's interesting. And so there probably won't be news on this for about a month or something like that. And this seems to be the most promising vaccine as far as trials are going. This is the most far along in the trials, and it's getting positive results in the trials and moving along to phase 2. They're applying for phase 3. Um, and so that's not going to affect the AstraZeneca stock very much, but this is an interesting one. I mean, this is a small company that has gone sort of parabolic since since the coronavirus news and the stock crash and the lockdowns, everything. This thing has just been kind of climbing, so it's hard to know what a real value for this guy is, because there's already sort of bubble risk built in here. I mean, it came off of normal trading levels down here, and it got crazy volatile, and it's way up here now, from 20 up to 60. So I mean that it could go down to 1/3 of the price the moment they find out the thing doesn't work, or it could go to the moon if they find out it does work. So this is kind of a semi-risky, expensive lottery ticket, in my opinion, at this point. And shorting this thing would have been awesome because I mean that's from 90 all the way down to 60. I mean that's a big swing. And that's kind of the look on these smaller stocks getting these news flashes. But a lot of the times, this stuff happens overnight, this crazy stuff. And yeah, you can see it got a huge sell off even before market opened here. And then it continued to go down. And so I would be happy shorting a peak, but once it starts going down, I don't know. I don't know how far it's going to go down. I'm actually surprised it came down this far. But that doesn't necessarily make it a good price for a lottery ticket either. And yeah, sorry, the Oxford University vaccine. Yesterday we got news on the Oxford vaccine that was awful. They were testing on Macau monkeys, and it failed, completely failed. Every single one of the monkeys contracted coronavirus. It was completely ineffective in the monkey animal tests. Yesterday, we heard that. Today, Operation Warp Speed. Donald Trump's been announcing Operation Warp Speed and talking about wanting to, fund and rush the vaccines. And I just kind of ignored it. And he's not joking, man. They just deployed $1.2 billion. They gave $1.2 billion to AstraZeneca. And this is securing 300 million doses of this Oxford vaccine. And they should be able to produce about 1 billion doses of this into next year and then keep producing it after that. And so that's really cool to, I guess, give them a bunch of money for manufacturing and secure doses and that. And I heard that the French president was upset that America was securing that many doses for themselves. And yeah, but we just found out that it was failing the test. So maybe they know something that we don't. Um, but it, I mean, AstraZeneca just said that they realize that there's no confirmation that this vaccine works at all, and they are prepared to ramp up production, to 1 billion doses of this vaccine. Then now they have, 1.2 billion from America. They have some funding from the UK as well, and I think they have some funding from India. And yeah, and America has secured 300 million of the first billion doses, and that is what's going on today. And that is what is making the stocks go crazy. And it's AZN, and it is just coming down today the whole day off of this peak. And so that's a less hypey. I mean, it's just, well, I guess it hit 57, but it's really just coming down from like 56 to 55 or something. That's not a monumental swing on the back of that news, and it shouldn't be, because this is a small percentage of their potential, of their potential growth. I mean, this is a company with a huge moat. They have a ton of successful, drug products that have good patent protection for now in the short term. And this has been a really, really big winner in the healthcare sector over the course of this crash. And I don't know if the price seems high right now to me. And where's the crash? So like the healthcare sector in general, where is it from? 20, like here. Okay, so from here, like the healthcare sector in general is down a little bit, and it did a decent bounce. And this one is sort of neutral, I guess, from the top, or up a little. I mean, the moving average says slightly up, so it's doing better than the general healthcare sector. And this is obviously a pretty big peak here. And I was looking at, if the S&P turns down now, that will most likely pull this down with it. And so I was thinking this is a potential short peak just for today on the reversal, even though that's kind of tiny. But it's a good high point to hold a short in case the S&P comes down and pulls it down a little bit. But I'm not interested in getting a short farther down here. If it would have gone up into trading today, I probably would have shorted it up here, but I missed it. And that is the vaccine. Let's get back to the S&P and see what we're getting. All right, so I have my double rainbow here, which is this pattern that we've been following, where it's kind of just grinding here, and the reactions that we're getting on the outer circle and the inner circle here, the ellipse, they're following the edge shape of this circle. And we get this upward stuff here, and then we get these upward reactions here, and then you can see the angle where it's grinding and reacting is right along the angle of the circle here. It does it. And then when we get down here to this one, we get our first downward angled movements that look like they're going down the circle. So I came out and I'm like, oh yeah, like this looks like it's going downhill now. It looks like this thing has turned over. And as soon as I said that, it goes right up here, which is not crazy to swing from side to side, but as soon as I say it's going down, it goes the other edge of the circle. And now we're getting grinding action here along the edge. And let me flip through the MACDs and zoom in and see what this thing's doing. So on the daily MACD, we're still up. Yeah, we're still up in bull territory, and we're still diverged in bull territory. So this is a bullish look on the daily, which is like a month to month kind of longer term outlook. This is still up from the whole bull run that we got. And this is really interesting on the 4 hour. We're getting this kind of downward waving channel. And sometimes you get this, but it just keeps waving. And these are lining up. I think I did this in this video already. These are lining up with the peaks and the bottoms. And so a turnover on the MACD here would indicate another move down to the inner circle if this pattern continues. And we can see that it is just crossing over here, and that doesn't mean that it is going to come down right now, but it's a point where it could come down. And then we can see that it is coming down on the 3 hour, And so you can kind of zoom in as you get on shorter time lengths, and it's coming down. It's already coming down on the 2, and it's coming down and going down again. Okay, so that looks pretty bearish on the week to week kind of outlook there. And then we can get into like the rest of this week, and it looks like it has done a bear side swing here. Okay, so that's a pretty bearish look there. And yeah, bear side swing there. Okay, so this looks like it's trying to turn over to me. And I think there's a lot of downside risk here in the general S&P. And if it does a huge swing down from here, this is the last opportunity to add shorts. And I might, yeah, I just added a few. I think it might be too late to try to get in there and add shorts now. Um, but that's the not investment advice. And so I have like a market tracker playlist for this stuff. But what I'm going to start doing is just adding the market tracker stuff to the end of the kind of hot stock videos, because the hot stocks get a lot of random hits and the market trackers only get a few views from subscribers. So if you're a subscriber, just get into my hot stock videos from now on, and I'll have this market tracker stuff at the end of the hot stocks. And that's what we're looking at now. And I think this looks pretty bearish going into close and overnight tonight. And as far as maybe an Elliott wave look on this thing, let's see. What am I on? A 15-minute? That's good. All right, so yeah, a big reversal top. Okay, so I mean, we could get like a 5 wave here, maybe like a 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe to the yellow line as a target right now. I don't know. The angle is probably not very good. And like something like that with the longer middle. Let's see, oh, the first wave is pretty big. Oh, I wonder. That's a big first wave. If we get a 5, it would be a bigger middle one and potentially break this thing. But I think this is a hot spot to watch out for reactions. And then, of course, this circle here. Um, yeah, we have this whole zone here, kind of reacting on this circle and above this. So, I mean, I think for the rest of the week, like this whole area is something to watch. If we don't get like an aggressive, kind of waterfall thing, like a big reversal. If we just get some normal kind of reversal activity here, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of this kind of stuff. Uh, if it's trying to go down, something like that, or just kind of more of this. It likes to do that. It looks like, but this grinding activity along the edge over the last couple of days has been really bearish on the MACD. I mean, it's brought all the MACD stuff from a very high bull spot, like way down to neutral, and now it looks like it's flipping. So I think this is a potential reversal point, and we'll see. We'll see what we get. Um, I think that's good. Uh, yeah, I mean, just general credit contraction cycle. I think we have about a month left in the contraction cycle, and the I expect a downward movement, but I don't know how far. I mean, I just have this. I just have my double rainbow for now. That's all you get. That's all you get, and once we get kind of out of this pattern, we can work on what's going to happen next. But after the credit contraction cycle here, which you get a down, you usually get a bounce and a bounce. But we got no bounce this time. We just got the smooth roll, which happens much less often. And I guess I'll mention this. I think, yeah, the 130-day moving average. I like the 130. It gets more reactions, but this thing's up here at about 320, and at about right at about 3,000. Right at about 3,000 is our 50-week moving average or our 200-week moving average. But this whole area here is just a really hot spot for bull to bear market activity. So basically, bear markets try to stay under that line, and bull markets try to stay above that line. And so right now we're in bear market territory, and We're seeing if we stay in bear market territory under that line, or if we get above this thing and stay above it, then that would be super bullish and would be aiming for all-time highs. So this is a pretty critical spot here to see if this thing turns over and stays on the double rainbow, or if we get above this, well, not above this thing. Yeah, this is a critical spot. And then of course our financial crisis line. So we've already tagged and reversed off of the Volmageddon line. So I think this line is dead forever. That's a tangent termination reversal, where that's a 2 year long bull market line that goes back to the bottom of Volmageddon, and we've broken that and backtested it and terminated it. And I was looking to see if that pattern repeats, where we tag and terminate this line, and we're not getting a termination move. I mean, we're just all over this line and just waving all across it, and so it's going to be kind of hard to identify a reversal termination point on this one, I think. But but there's the potential to terminate and destroy this line now. Or, I mean, if we just get down to like here and in the cycle, the next cycle is going to be up, and I don't think that this is going to be terminated. So we'll have to see if we get the bear moves, how deep are they, and does it look like we're coming back to this line or not? Because there's not really another line below it. The next line is way down. Yeah, the next line is like down at like 12. Yeah, it's at 1200, and that line is a 40-year long bull market line that goes all the way back to 1982, and that's really the spot where the everything bubble started. It's right at the Volcker bottom, where we switched into the euro dollar system, and we got a 40-year euro dollar bubble. And so that's sort of the floor of the entire everything bubble, is all the way down here. And we've made a really big gash right on the first reversal. This is a huge gash down towards the floor of the bubble on the first move, which is really surprising. Like on most of the other sovereign debt bubbles, like the Nikkei or something, I mean, it takes months for these things to kind of reverse and come down towards the floor of the bubble. I mean, in 3 years or something like that. And this thing has just ripped like halfway immediately in the first like month. Like, this thing is insane. Um, so, I mean, I guess there's a slight possibility of getting down here. I don't think so. I don't think we could make it down here, but there's a possibility that we get a bigger move down here somewhere, or we could get a very weak move, or we could go to all-time highs. I mean, it doesn't really project where we're going to end the cycle. But just on cycle terms, it's just sort of this 3-ish month timeline that looks like it started a bit early here, and should be the end of the cycle should be in sort of this time period at some random height. And hopefully we get a clean reversal pattern where we can identify when we're switching into a different set of fundamental conditions, because all of the long and short positions are almost flipped when that happens. Because this is a credit contraction down cycle, like negative inflation, negative growth, into an expansion, which would be positive inflation, positive growth. It's an opposite cycle, way different fundamentals. Um, so that is the cyclical outlook. And yeah, I guess just the monetary thing is just sort of the I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but I may as well, whatever. Um, the monetary system is just sort of the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency, and how other currencies are going to fare against the dollar, and how gold, silver, and Bitcoin are going to look against the dollar. And that has a whole lot to do with whether this uh, this kind of crisis is going to turn inflationary or deflationary. There's a huge argument about which one, and I'm pointing at deflationary right now, solely because the bond interest rates, the U.S. Treasury bonds, uh, should go up, and it looks like we're going to negative rates. And if we go to negative rates, that's a deflationary signal. But if the interest rates start going up, that would be a big inflationary signal, and that's a huge thing to watch out for. um, because that dramatically changes the outlook for commodities like oil and for the stock market. Like inflation would be way up for commodities, way up for the stock market, and deflation would be down for both. And almost in every case, though, gold will do better than dollars, and dollars will do better than other currencies. Looking out maybe in a 2 year kind of outlook, and that's the general kind of base case guess at what's going on is more likely deflation, which would be downward movements in commodities over the next couple of years. And yeah, and then gold should be okay in both cases. I think gold is better in the deflationary case. And then inflation would be really good for silver because silver is a commodity and a monetary asset that could appreciate really well in an inflationary scenario. So I guess in the case that we get deflation first and then inflation, because we are getting deflation now, and we don't know if that continues for like a week or a month or a year or 10 years. Like who knows how long deflation could continue. But right now we're in a deflationary cycle. And so if there's deflation, then that's good for gold. And that makes the stock market really risky. And it makes commodities like oil and things like that really risky with big downside possibilities. And so they'll be kind of like fighting up against big downside risk. And and then Bitcoin is a really tricky one because well, I mean, everyone thinks that Bitcoin does its own thing, but if you look at Bitcoin through this credit contraction cycle, it has behaved like a weak monetary asset, very much like silver has behaved like a weak monetary asset, where it's crashed with the cycle and not bounced very much. And it has done that, and it's a little more volatile than silver has been. But gold didn't do that. Gold is a strong monetary asset that has bounced and gone to highs over the length of the entire crash. Gold is up, but it does pull down with the downs because people sell the monetary assets to pay for their stock market losses. Um, but potentially, man, Bitcoin's a hard one. But right now, Bitcoin is looking more like silver than gold. It's looking like a weak monetary asset that's not doing well in deflation so far. And so I would need to see Bitcoin just start acting differently than silver, uh, and start acting more like gold, I guess, for me to be interested in Bitcoin in a deflationary scenario. But I think it's a really cool, super high risk, of course, thing to look at in the inflationary environment. Silver and Bitcoin, I think, would both be a really cool thing to look at if we do start seeing us switch into the inflation. So that is all the things for the Oxford. What's the Oxford? The Oxford University vaccine that has absolutely no confirmation that it works whatsoever. But they're going to produce 1 billion doses of this thing and try to get it out by the end of the year. And hopefully they have better information than the last news blast that it failed the animal tests. There must be some kind of new. I expect more news on this to come out over the next week or two because that's a huge amount of money to deploy on a failed test. There must be more stuff going on with that we don't know about yet. So it's pretty cool and pretty hot topic. And happy trading.